Well, it looks like we're live now. Hello, LabCoatAgents. Shawn, Kerley. We got Mr. Brian Stevens with National Real Estate Post, and on the back end, we were just talking about boring lives and different styles of milk, oat milk, almond milk. So, funny story before we get started, Brian, and I won't take too long. Myself, Mr. Jeff Fitzer, and Tristan were sitting in LA in some posh little place getting a coffee, and Tristan got a nitro infused whatever. And then he asked for a little side of oat milk. And I was like, what is going on here? And here I am, a Midwesterner from St. Louis. I'm like, now you guys are getting milk from oats? So after many months, or actually many weeks of making fun of him, then I started seeing it in my grocery store. And we now have oat milk in my refrigerator.
We are regular milk. We are so in the same. So I have drank black coffee for the past 35, 40 years of my life. And I never even heard of oat milk until about a month ago. And I had some, and I'm like, oh my God, this is insanely wonderful. It's like a little bit of oatmeal in your coffee.
Yes.
Makes everything better. It keeps the calories down. The whole process is working for me. So yes, I am, this is me. I am an oat milk person. This is my daughter. She is a almond person. And if I were to show you the rest of my, we've got skimmed milk. We've got it's one of the beauties of being 50 years old.
Yes. And anytime I can make shade at Tristan in good gesture, it's always fun. But yeah, oat milk, he will get a giggle out of that one. Well, let's get started. We're going to talk about some topics that are affecting the mortgage side, which is ultimately going to affect the real estate side. And we got surprised with something which aggravated everybody. There's really no recourse that we can have. It just is what it is. Fannie Mae comes out and says they want to limit their exposure on investment properties and second homes. So why not just increase the fees that we charge? Where investment property realtors, listen to this, if you have a client that is an investor that is borrowing money, they just got an increase of a half a point, 0.5% hit. And then if you have somebody buying a second home, there's a full percent hit to the actual fee structure. So someone has a $400,000 loan investment property, they're incurring another $2,000. If I am buying a second home using a 30-year mortgage, 15-year, whatever, and I classify it as a second home, on a $400,000 loan, I just incurred an extra $4,000 fee either in the rate or in whatever I'm paying. Isn't that beautiful?
Well, I mean, there's an assumption that, the 30-year fixed rate loan has been here forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, to create affordability. And what these are called are agency loans. They're Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie. It's going to be your FHA, your Fannie Mae, and your Freddie Mac loans. The assumption that it's always going to be here. Here's the whole thing. There will always be a loan for you out there if you choose to have it. But if we go from something that is not a federally guaranteed loan, there's going to be an inherent risk that's incurred with that loan. And that risk is going to come in the form of a higher interest rate. So for example, like if you decided to invest in mortgage-backed securities from Fannie or Freddie, you know that you've got the implicit guarantee of the federal government behind that. And no matter what happens with the loan, that you're going to be made whole. So the return on your investment is going to be relatively small in regards to doing something which is called a non-agency loan, where you don't have the implicit guarantee of the federal government behind it, and it's going to come at a higher rate. So we're constantly struggling between these two different types of loans that we could possibly get. We want the implicit guarantee from the federal government on our Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie loans, or do we want to go with our non-agency loans, which are going to be our Alt-A? They used to call them subprime loans. So listen, Fannie and Freddie, when they make a decision, understand this. Fannie and Freddie guarantee over $1 trillion in loans every single year. So yes, when they make a decision about what they're going to do with, second homes or whatever the case is going to be, it's going to have a tectonic effect, not only in the housing market, but also in the United States economy. Because our economy, we are the stick that stirs the economy, or that the housing market is. It certainly is a biggest part of our gross domestic product in the United States. So yeah, these are big decisions, man. And what we have to do in the housing market is we have to understand how to navigate the waters.
So realtors in the hotbeds of, second homes, when you think about it, vacation spots, your Florida, your Arizona, California, anywhere, a mountain community, lake communities. These real estate professionals really need to get with their clients and make sure that they're talking to the loan officers to understand that since they've not found something and closed and funded on something already, that if they do find something today or later, that guess what, you have more cost if you're actually borrowing.
Yeah,
using a
and
mortgage.
the amount could be relatively large. It's kind of like an old motorcycle. We were just talking about motorcycles a moment ago, where you had you would calibrate your motorcycle and understand like how much gas and oil you should be putting in, based on what your elevation or altitude is. And what happens with the housing market is we start to look at things when they're overheating, we're going to start to pull back. When we're underheating, we're going to start to push out. And for somebody who's considering buying a second house right now, you certainly have to understand exactly what you're getting into, because it's going to be more expensive today than it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, let's switch topics. This
Sure.
was a kind of a fun one on the broker channel.
Oh,
You had UWM, largest wholesaler, right?
You're going to get me in trouble here.
Well, I'm not going to get you in trouble. We're just going to talk about it, because what was fascinating is head honcho over there goes on a Facebook Live and starts talking about all the cool stuff that they have coming out. We're doing different rate stacks, all this new programs. And oh, by the way, brokers, if you work with Rocket Mortgage, Quicken, and if you work with Fairway, you can't work with us. But if you want to work with us, you have to sign an affidavit saying you're not going to work with them because they don't like how they're basically trying to recruit. So in his words, trying to recruit brokers away into their under their umbrella.
Isn't it ironic that United Wholesale Mortgage also has retail channels? I just, like I said, I don't know where do you stand on this?
The thing is that for folks that are trying to get pre-approved or working the realtor and they're using a broker, it limits the broker's product stack to where if Quicken or if Fairway have a better rate than what they're putting out, then they can't take advantage of that. So it's like,
here's kind of my I'm going to wane and wax philosophically for a couple of seconds here. Is a matter of principle. Somebody telling you what you can or cannot do and going to levy a fine against you for doing whatever your decision is that you think is in the best interest of your family and your clients is just absurd. It's just absurd. Now, I'm not saying you have to love Rocket or Quicken or Fairway or Guarantee or you don't have to love those companies. But as a matter of principle, you coming out and telling me that I can or cannot do something is problematic to me. It really honestly is. And I think what this is, and I know these folks, I think well enough. I think there's a certain level of hold on. Hold on. This has been going on for years. So if you understand United Wholesale Mortgage and you understand Quicken, they're both in the state of Michigan. And Matt Ishba, he was the 12th person on the bench when the University of Michigan won the national championship. But he was that guy. He was an incredibly talented person, but he was the 12th guy on the bench. And I think that person always wants to be the first person on the bench if they could ever find a way to do it. Dan Gilbert is clearly the first guy on the bench. When you look at the mortgage industry, especially in the state of Michigan, he's the first guy on the bench. And it feels to me that Matt Ishba has been just attacking so much for so long. And I find the nature of what's going on, it doesn't strike me as being professional. At this point, it strikes me as being personal.
Okay.
Now, this is just me talking, okay? Now, with this said, United Wholesale has done an enormous amount of great stuff for mortgage brokers and lenders and everybody in the country. There's not 1 ounce of me that's knocking anything that United Wholesale Mortgage has done. They've been a fantastic company. But this strikes me as being a little bit personal and not necessarily professional. Now, Matt Ishba, I think overnight, when they had their IPO that was released a month ago, became like the 51st richest person in the country. Oddly enough, isn't it interesting how somebody's always out there for mortgage brokers? Literally just said, I'm going to have a board that I'm going to be accountable to, or I have a fiduciary to, which is going to be in contrast to the mortgage brokers that I seem to scream and rave about how much, I'm in support of them. Well, now we've just created a conflict of interest. But anyways, they've done like a bunch of great stuff. And it's just, I don't understand the nature of what's taking place here. It seems counterproductive for me to sign anything that is going to limit my options or the options for my clients.
Yeah, and I get that 100%. It always comes back to, if you're scared of competition, pillaging your product, as far as like your resources, your loan officers, just do a better job of making sure that they're happy and providing for them, right? Because there's always recruiters calling my people every single day. They're getting 4, 5 LinkedIn messages, phone calls, text messages, whatever. That's never going to go away, because loan officers, they bring in the revenue, they keep the lights on as far as whatnot. But yeah, I found it interesting, and just how they communicated the message. Let's go Facebook Live and just blast it. Oh well.
Yeah, like I said, you're going to get me in trouble with this one, because there's it's remarkable how many people have decided that they're going to drink the Kool-Aid and go ahead and sign this thing and accept the fact that if they use a mortgage company that's not necessarily called United Wholesaler, or one of the ones that they agree with, are going to pay up to a $5,000 fine on any individual loan. It's so in contrast to anything that's ever happened in the mortgage industry ever. I don't get it, and yet there's a lot of people who are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, for sure. The time will only tell. All right, fun topic: increasing interest rates. 30 days ago, we were in the 2s. Now we're in the 3s.
Oh my God.
In most cases, rates went up about a half a point in 30 days due to inflation. Your business partner, Frank Garay, and Barry Habib, were talking that they could continue to rise. They most likely will continue to rise to the high 3s. And there's a couple things I want to say here is, like, yeah, it sucks that rates are going up. Affordability is getting tighter compared to a 2.75 compared to a 3.75. I get that 100%.
Sure.
But what I find almost comical, and people are spoiled whenever they see rates in the 2s, and you're like, oh yeah, your rate's gonna be 3 1/8 or 3.375, whatever it is. Like, ooh, that's horrible. It's like, it just, the memory is so short on interest rates historically. I just find it comical. But what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, here's the whole thing. When I was a young loan officer and I had the old salty dogs, they would say in the 1980s we were selling rates in the 15%. And now I'm looking at people as an old salty dog saying I used to sell rates in the 7%. And I remember when rates got down to 6%, I thought there was no way that was going to be sustainable forever. And it turns out that it was. And in fact, in one of the conversations I had with Barry was interesting. He goes, I don't think we're going to see rates in the 4s again, period, like in the next 10 years. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because to me, 6 to 7% seems kind of a sustainable number, like with your historical averages. Here's what I know. The rate that every single person wants in the country is 0.25% below whatever the going rate is for the day. So it could be 7%, 6, 5, 4, 3, or 2. Here's the whole point. You can borrow somebody else's money at a rate that's unbelievable right now. It doesn't matter if it's in the 2s, the 3s, or even the 4s. Now, is it going to take affordability away from some people? Certainly it could. Are there going to be issues with inflation that we have to deal with, or the direction of the housing market? Absolutely. Of course it's going to. But if you can afford a house right now and you can borrow somebody else's money in the 3s or the 4s or the 2s, my God, that's incredible. It's a remarkable low rate of return for the person who's actually putting up the money that's going to back that mortgage-backed security.
for sure. Yeah, you say 6% was your number that you thought it would never get below. Mine was
Right.
4.875. I remember it's like, oh my goodness, 4.8. So I called everybody I could talk to.
Yep.
I refinanced as many people as I could. And I said, you'll never touch a mortgage again. You're done. You're set. Go do whatever. And then I'd
Yep.
call them again when it was 3.875, then 3.25, then 2.8. And you know, I would get made fun of a little bit, like, well, Shawn, every time you call me, you say that you'll never touch your mortgage again. I'm like, I just can't believe where they're at now. This past 2020 was completely different than previous times before. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Whenever I thought 4.8, you'd never touch it again, and you were at 6%, and you've been doing it just a tad bit longer than I. But
It's the same idea, though. It's the same
yeah,
principle. I do remember the person. I remember the loan. I remember exactly where it was. And I remember thinking, you will never find this rate again. And I
hmm
couldn't believe I was locking a 6% rate.
hmm oh well, we'll see what happens. Um, Lumber mills affected
Yes.
by COVID. Lumber's only up what, 200%. So what is that doing? And I have a story after you're done, but what, I mean, new construction costs, what's going on?
Softwood, the price of softwood, something nobody ever thinks about. 95% of it comes from Canada. Our Douglas fir, which is what we use to frame houses, the price of that wood has gone up so substantially. I believe the number is, and you could probably go, I did the story, but you could, I think it was like $24,000 to $26,000 in additional cost on average per house based on the cost of wood. And there's a number of reasons for it. The big one is COVID. There's not as many people moving stuff. The demand in the States is absolutely massive. So the
Mhm.
cost of wood has gone up 200%. And the added cost to any new construction, which is exactly what we need right now, is somewhere to the tune of like $24,000. It's really remarkable. Most people don't think about like what the cost of wood is, or even what type of wood we use or how we use it.
Mhm.
But yeah, the number is massive, and it's an import. It's an import from Canada. Almost all of our wood is imported from Canada. It's softwood. It's primarily Douglas fir. It's 2x4s or 6s, and yeah, it is changing the landscape of the housing industry right before our eyes.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a local builder here in St. Louis, and they got caught right when all this stuff started happening. That they agreed to build the price of the house for X, went
Yep.
through everything, and by the end of it, they were actually bringing in $20,000
Yep.
because they couldn't raise the price. You know, they couldn't go back to the client and say, "Hey, guess what? My raw materials went up, so you get to pay more now. We're under contract already." They basically honored their word, and they brought 20 grand into closing to
Wow.
get these people into a house. And they're like, and of course they're not, yeah, they're complaining. Nobody wants to, bring money into to build a house. But yeah, it was unfortunate. And they were very, very busy throughout the entire year, so it's not like it's going to cripple them. But if you keep on taking on that cost,
Sure.
building 10 houses, how much is that? Whatever. But yeah, I found that interesting that they unfortunately got caught, or one of their houses got caught in that rise. And because it was kind of like overnight, like, okay, your 2x4s of this, or even if you go to Home Depot to do a home project. I saw a meme that I just chuckled at. And it was a husband and wife, and he said the wife wanted to go somewhere expensive, so he set up a table in the lumber department at Home Depot and had dinner. And I thought it was funny, but
Well, I mean, but the cost of anything is generally nuanced, isn't it? Like we're going to assume that the cost can go up or down incrementally on a very small scale, and so most industries can kind of deal with it. We deal with it at the gas pump. Like you'll get up tomorrow and gas is 9 cents more per gallon. Well, you can go ahead and account for the 9 cents more. You'll be pissed off if that goes on for weeks and weeks where it keeps going up 9 cents. But the nuanced nature of any industry and whatever the cost of goods are is something that's reasonable. The cost of wood to build a house has gone up 200% overnight. I mean, imagine like right now. So we here in California, we pay about $4.50 a gallon. Imagine, I know.
it
I
must
love
be
you,
so much
I
fun to
love your
live in that
capitalism.
state.
No, but like let's assume that the price of gas went up to $9 overnight. Well, that would affect people's travel. That would affect everything that everyone does, and that's what's happened in the housing industry. Is the cost to build a home has gone up 200% over the course of a couple of months. These numbers are remarkable, and it's going to have a long lasting effect on housing. And we don't even know what the outcome of that is going to be yet. We honestly don't. I mean, every house is so like, listen, $27,000 more dollars on a house in St. Louis, Missouri. What's that going to do?
Yeah.
Be a 40% increase to your average house. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really sad about it is the folks that are trying to get into the market, your first time home buyers, they're just squeezed out.
I agree.
There's really nothing for them to pick. And it used to be, if you wanted a 2-bed, 2-bath, or 2 and a 1.5, to get in, start building your wealth, maybe start whatever the scenario is. There used to be inventory for that. Now it's like, oh, I have a shed in the backyard and you can buy it for that. It's unfortunate. Hopefully we see, getting onto our next topic, we see some inventory coming into the marketplace. What I thought I saw a stat that in 2020, inventory was down 43% from 2019. Yeah. In 2019, what was our major bitch? Inventory sucks. There's no houses to pick from. So now it really, really sucks, right?
Yep.
And, of course, we all know that that's why the prices have done what they've done with the appreciation. But hopefully the shot in the arm's coming, which, if you think about it, it's like the double-edged sword. You want a bunch of houses come on market, but you don't want to know the reason why. Like, I love sausage, just don't tell me how it's made kind of thought process. So you and Frank were talking about on one of your shows past couple of days that somewhere right around 500 to 700,000 homes should be coming into the market Q3, Q4 in the way of foreclosure or short sale.
Right, and this came from a title company's analytics, and they were looking at the numbers, and yeah, there's going to be close to a million homes that are going to come on the market as a result of foreclosures from people who are under or unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big number, and it's the 800-pound gorilla that nobody wants to talk about right now.
Yeah.
And that is that all these forbearances that we're doing to keep people in homes, well, as we said before, what if those people actually can't make the payments on the house? All we're doing is we are extending out a period for which they're living in a house that they can otherwise not afford. And as people are coming out of forbearance, what we're noticing is that they're still not making their payments. It's because they can't make their payments because people are, like I said, are underemployed. So we're going to see in mid 2021, we're going to see these forbearance policies on these mortgages, all backed by, as we said earlier, Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie, your implicit federal guarantee on 75% of the mortgages in the country. They're going to start to come due. And there's a couple of things that are happening right now. One, servicers can ill afford this right now because a servicer, strangely, has to make the mortgage payment even if the mortgage bearer of that note doesn't make the payment. So if I buy a mortgage-backed security, I am guaranteed to get my payment, not from the person who's borrowing the money, but from the person who is servicing that loan. So when you have 20 million people across the country who don't make their payment, well, the servicers still have to make those payments to the holder of that mortgage-backed security. It's a real complicated mess.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happened is Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie have come out and said, okay, well, we're going to try to help the servicers because servicers were going broke, the people who actually service the loans. So what we're seeing right now is we're starting to find that these servicers don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the federal funding behind it. And when these forbearance periods come up, there's going to be a certain collapse in loans. It's just going to happen. And is that reasonable? It's just the nature of the world that we live in, I suppose. But yes, what we're going to see in mid 2021 is we're going to see a bunch of loans default. And that's going to create opportunity and inventory for real estate agents. And I mean, in a weird twist of, reality, isn't it kind of a good thing? I mean, we do need the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you rather have people in houses who can actually afford to make the mortgage payment than ones who can't? Is it just a pragmatic way of looking at things?
One thing I remember in 2008 when things started going bad, in 2010, whenever there was really, really affected, you losing banks and things of that nature. I remember that it was an oddity to where if I got a sales contract and the seller was actually a person, it was always REO, REO, REO.
Yep.
And back then, one of the products that real estate agents and also loan officers really need to be familiar with is your rental loans, say home style, your 203Ks. I don't know. It's different. I think the temperature is different this time around compared to back then, because back then people were pissed off. The bank screwed me, so I'm going to beat the hell out of the asset that the bank's taken back. I
Right.
don't know if we're going to get the same thing, but if people are still displaced, they're going to be angry. Who knows what they do to the home? So if somebody has a client that's looking at one of these foreclosures that comes on the market and the house is beat to shit, well, there are rental products out there to make it into a beautiful home again. So maybe those products do make a resurgence back into people getting into these houses. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as crazy as it was back in 2008, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Do you
Yeah.
remember? I remember hearing stories about people who were flushing
Cement.
concrete down
Yeah.
their toilets. Yeah,
Yeah.
the quickcrete down their toilets to screw up the pipes in the houses because they were so pissed off that they lost it. I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to see it on those numbers, but I do think it's going to give us a little bit of relief in terms of inventory, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. And here's the whole point. Again, we've talked to nauseum. We've talked about this. Is as a real estate agent, go find those people right now who are going to be distressed in 6 months and have that conversation today.
Yeah.
So they can go ahead and sell these houses, maybe realize a little bit of the equity and live to fight another day when like normalcy comes back to the world, if it ever does.
Yeah.
Like that's the idea.
Well, and on that point, whenever this time last year, whenever COVID got real in the United States, NBA shut down. That was somewhat of the talk is, hey, reach out to your SOI, see if they're affected, make sure, just be a friend. And here we are a year later, it's still saying the same message. And, I know some folks are doing it. Some people are like, yeah, I still need to do that, don't I? It's like, just pick up the phone and start talking to your people. Last thing, and I know this is comical for us on the mortgage side, is that FHFA past administration, they were trying to get out of conservatorship, basically trying to get out from underneath the government thumb. And they added the 0.5 point adverse market fee, basically a money grab for anybody refinancing. We're going to charge you 0.5% just because to line our pockets, make ourselves look like we're solvent and get out of the government's realm. Well, new administration comes in, they say, yeah, that was all well and good, but that's not going to happen. We make way too much damn money off you guys. We're going to keep you in and still rip all of your profits every 90 days. But we still have this 0.5 point adverse market fee. And why won't it go away? I understand why it won't, because they're making so much damn money on it. But with increasing rates, people losing the ability to really help themselves on either debt consolidation or restructuring their loan responsibilities on a term. Why is this 0.5 point still there? And is there any recourse? I mean, can we get the pitchforks and the torches and just start charging the walls of FHFA and say, get rid of this damn thing now?
It's just a tax. It's a tax for anybody who gets a federally insured mortgage. That's all it is. Do you realize that the G fee, which is by extension part of the adverse market fee, that fee has been used to build freeway overpasses. Mm-hmm. It was used to clean up the BP oil spill. It's been used for everything other than what it was intended to be used for, which is to support the housing market. It's just a tax. I mean, how often does the federal government take money and then decide it's a good idea to give it back? And it's a huge number. It's a massive, massive cash grab. And that's all it is. If you want to do something, if you want to kind of go down the wormhole, like go look at what we use this adverse market fee for and look at what we use our G fee for. It's supposed to be earmarked for supporting the housing market. Go look at what we use this money for. It is absolutely insane. And so is it going to go away? No, it's again, and it's a huge fee too. It's not a small fee because you're going to realize it in every interest rate on your loan. So you're not going to necessarily pay the fee, but what you're going to do is you're going to pay a bump in your interest rate to cover the cost of that fee. And that means you're going to finance that fee over the next 30 years of your mortgage. So everybody who's getting a mortgage right now that is federally guaranteed is going to be paying a tax which otherwise didn't exist. And there's no reason for it at this point. Absolutely none. But because it's there and there's just not enough noise about complaining about it, it's not going to go away.
Yeah, the the thought process of just throwing numbers out. I buy a house, my primary residence, I got it, smoking 2.75 interest rate.
Sure.
Houses, I did some work to it. Houses around me keep on selling for more. I want to refinance, and I only put 5% down on this, 30-year fix. I want to refi and get out of MI. Well, and if rates were still exactly the same as whenever I purchased, I'm not getting 2.75. I'm getting 2.8 to 3% because of that half point hit that gets absorbed into the rate. Or I could pay 0.5, to buy the rate down. It's just ridiculous. It's like, okay, they're still the same damn product almost, as far as one's used for purchase, one's used for refinance on a rate and term. But just because I'm refinancing my debt to better my position or build wealth or do whatever, give us a half point. You need to build a freeway.
Okay, so it's going to be $40 a month, but all right, now take 20 million houses across the country and charge every one of them $40 a month, and what is that going to do? It's an enormous amount of money.
Well, it just goes to show that our politicians do have our best interests in their hearts.
They certainly do.
And now I'm being very facetious, but anyway, we won't go down that tangent. I don't know. That's all I got today, brother. You got anything else?
No, man, that's it. Just like I said, just knuckles down, just, keep working your butt off. It's just a good time to work hard. That's all.
For sure. For sure. Okay, man. Well, this has been a great one, and I will see you again in the future.
I'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy your oat milk.
Right here.
Bye.